and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed keynote conference speaker for today. With over a decade of experience in emerging technologies, he is a passionate advocate for augmented reality, virtual reality, and the untapped potential of generative AI. Currently serving as the CTO at Wakefit, he brings a wealth of experience from his diverse roles, having steered the ship as the head of engineering at Zepto and playing pivotal roles at Zivame, Myntra, and Jabong. Today, our dynamic leader is all set to enlighten us on the dynamic intersection of omnichannel and the cloud that is shaping the future of businesses. So get ready for insights that will undoubtedly shape the future of customer experience and efficiency of organizations. So with that, let's give a resounding round of applause. Let's give a big round of applause for the CTO of Wakefield, Mr. Yash Dayal. Can I please request you to have join us on stage? Yes, sir, please join us on stage. Give it up for Mr. Yash Dayal, everyone, the CTO at Wakefit.
I think I'll just end up using this and keep walking around. Good morning, everyone. I'm Yash, and thanks. It's a great honor to be here on this day. I'm also very excited about the sustainable manifesto that's being rolled out, that was inaugurated today. And while all of us enjoy the benefits of digital commerce, we enjoy the benefits of social media platforms, but there's always this hidden ecological cost of running these data centers, which are traditionally being run in a very expensive and a not ecological friendly manner. And I think this manifesto is going to help and drive towards having clean and green computing power. Today I'm going to talk about Omnichannel and the cloud. Let me also introduce myself. This is my photo. This is my photo when I just finished my engineering undergrad. I was very passionate about computers and robotics. So I started programming since I was 15 years of age. And over the last decade, have been mostly working with consumer internet companies. I've been fortunate to get into good organizations and interesting roles across Zepto, Yahoo, Myntra, Naukri.com, Zivame. And currently I'm working as the CTO at Wakefit. Today, actually, before I start in more detail, I wanted to get a survey from the audience. Right? How many people are working in DevOps or on the DevOps side? A show of hands. That's good. It's a large number of audience. How many people have been working or have experience with retail and e-commerce? Show of hands. All right, cool. All right, so I'll try to tweak my presentation accordingly as well as we go forward. I think first I want to give you an overview about retail. And we're living in this golden age of increasing consumerism in India, India's becoming this large and fast-growing economy. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk about omnichannel in retail. We'll also talk about how cloud and retail kind of go together. I have some interesting experiences here because most of my earlier companies, cloud was not there. And we used to have our own data centers. A big part of setting up your organization was to set up your own data center. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also we'll talk a little bit about scale and scalability. So let's go on the first topic, which is retail industry and India. So retail is a fast-growing industry. Worldwide, we're looking at a 7.4% in CAGR growth on retail. And in 2023, we were at $28 trillion. And it's expected to grow to $37 trillion by 2027. And by the end of the decade, global retail will reach about $45 trillion. And as we're progressing, a lot of the growth is going to happen on the digital side as well. And that's where I think being focused on being more environment friendly will be super critical. India, as I think all of us have been a part of this fast India growth journey, we are poised to be the third largest economy by 2030. And our retail industry will be actually about 10% of the global retail industry, which is about $4.5 trillion. That's a huge, huge market share, right? And so let's also look at some of the factors that are driving that, right? So as what was said before, we have like one of the cheapest data rates in the world. So I think and that's actually, and with launch of Jio, with launch of much cheaper internet, we are able to access a lot more content much faster. And that has actually evolved and focused retail to actually dive on the bandwagon of building digital services and building an omni-channel platform. One interesting note I found is we had the Big Billion Day. How many guys shopped at Big Billion or the Amazon sales? Quite a few. And this number just shocked me. In 1 week, Flipkart and Amazon sold about 1.5 million iPhones. It was just a mind-boggling number for me. This is also very interesting statistics. So when we always talk about internet, we've always been thinking about tier 1 cities. A lot of focus is on tier 1 cities. But I think now what we'll see is in the next few years, we'll actually see a shift from tier 1 and a much faster growth on rural. So rural internet is poised to grow at 44% higher rate than the urban internet. Right? And 50% of the population in rural India still needs to be tapped onto and become on the digital side. And when you look at it with the retail lens, this is a huge opportunity. These are some of the traditional formats of retail that happen. You have the single channel, which is, I think this from the brand perspective, so you have a single channel where you have physical stores, people come to a physical store and purchase. Then you have multi-channel where you'll have physical stores, you may have, you have your own website, you have a mobile app, right? And then I think when companies typically evolve into the multi-channel, you would not have tight integration of systems. So when you shop online, your data may not be available when you go to a retail store, etc. Then the next evolution of that becomes cross-channel, where you're able to kind of see all your orders. So if you place an order online, you're able to go to a retail store and they'll be able to show you that, okay, this was your purchase history. And at the final end, we have what is called as omni-channel, where you're using all possible channels. So any channel which the consumer is most comfortable in, and that's the channel where you provide the flexibility for the consumer to transact on the system. Right? So I think one of the examples of differences between cross-channel and omni-channel is, for example, we've seen that Facebook is now launching its commerce platforms. So if you may have your own website, you may have your retail store, but the difference in going to omni-channel is that you're also tapping some other platforms. So you're tapping social media platforms, you're also tapping all other avenues and opportunities. So basically, wherever the consumer is, and that's where your brand and you are present. So let's deep dive a little bit into omni-channel. This is also a very interesting time. So as we are seeing growth of internet in India and increasing spending in India, we are also seeing a big transition, and this is happening in India as well as worldwide, of companies and organizations which were very traditionally brick and mortar, were physical stores only. They're actually moving a pivot and adopting online, going through a digital transformation. On the other hand, we have traditionally digitally native online players who are actually now opening up stores, opening up physical stores. So Wakefit is one of those examples. We've been a traditionally D2C company, digitally native company, and now we are doing a very rapid expansion on the retail side of things. What is Omnichannel? So Omnichannel is to present the same curated, personalized experience to consumers across all channels and whichever channel your consumer is most comfortable with, right? And then you also you also have some other small tenets of Omnichannel. So you'll have this whole facility of, I can buy products, and if your brand or company allows returns, you can buy anywhere, you can actually exchange or return anywhere. So think of use cases where you've bought something online, and then you're just walking through and then there's a store nearby. You can just walk up to the store and you can actually quickly exchange that product. So you bought a shirt online, maybe it doesn't fit well, you can just go to a physical store and you can just exchange for the right size. Extension of this would also be that why should you always call to that IVR number, or why should you always email for customer support, right? Why can't I just walk to a retail store and actually the person there is as good or even better than the people at the IVR side of things? And of course, infinite island stores, this is already live in many places. Is you go to a store, you don't find something, you can actually just place an order there itself and it'll get delivered to your house, or you can come later and pick it up from the stores. So why are, pardon me for this. So while we are seeing that consumers are going up, but there is a lot of advantage which brands have from digital transformation, right? Of course, you have the Uber benefit of you're able to reach out to more consumers. But if you are coming from a very traditional industry or a brick and mortar industry, there's a lot of benefits that you can get from a digital transformation, right? One is you have increased consumer retention. It's much more comfortable for your consumers to shop from your brand or from your digital touch points or your physical touch points. The biggest advantage of being digital and being on the D2C brands is that you have a lot of consumer insights. You're able to gather a lot of data about consumers, and so you get market insights, you get consumer insights, and you can all funnel that information back into improving your product, improving your experience. Doing those things on the physical side becomes difficult. So I think one of the examples we have is we were trying to get some surveys done in our retail stores about how consumers feel about retail experience. The fill rates and the adoption rates of that is significantly lower than if you do a similar survey on our website. And so it's just easier for consumers. So again, you have to choose the medium which is easier for consumers to interact with. Inventory management at a global level becomes easier for you, although the tech systems become a lot more complex because there's a lot more complexity in figuring out where inventory is, where we should place inventory. But at a global level, it becomes easier to manage inventory. You're able to unlock a lot more of opportunity cost because you can you can showcase that inventory across multiple channels, and then people are able to shop that inventory. Because you have much better customer insights, you have much better inventory information, you're able to actually do better marketing, you're able to do more targeted, personalized communications, right? And at the end, you have much better customer support because you are available across all channels that the consumer is interested in. So these are phenomenal benefits which brands are getting or companies are getting, and that's the whole reason why there's so much of transformation into the digital side of things. And these are some of the examples of how brands are evolving into digital. Omnichannel, I think we just talked a lot about. Then, along with Omnichannel, there is this whole concept of big data that allows you to gather and keep large amounts of data, and you're able to run very sophisticated AI ML models. You can run generative. You can use this data to train and build your own generative AI programs, and all of that is a big advantage of the digital transformation of a brand, right? Then we have Internet of Things. This is kind of bridges the divide between physical and the digital space. I think we're at the beginning of this, so we're actually seeing that in some stores you may see some interesting kiosks that you can interact with, which will actually give you more information. And then as more and more products are becoming smarter, you'll actually start being able to gather more information and also be able to build a much better personalized consumer experience. What we also see is that there's also a general evolution on products as well. So if you look at light switches, right, or light fittings, maybe like a decade ago or 10 years down the line, only like smart bulb was still a very fantasy, right? Or it was only very evolved users or evolved buyers would actually be buying one of smart bulbs. But now with the commoditization of that, almost the price difference is very insignificant, and I'm actually seeing that a lot of people are starting to buy internet-enabled bulbs. So this is a big transformation that is happening into the light fitting industry as well, right? So they were earlier making traditional products, now they're moving into Internet of Things. Augmented reality, this is still at its infancy, but I think it's a huge disruption that's going to happen in the industry pretty soon. I think there's still evolution happening on how you can wear those 3D glasses, they're still expensive, but I think as time goes on, as things become more commoditized, this will actually become a very important channel for any omni-channel experience. Right? And then blockchain is a very strong technology that you can use to build a non-centralized ledger, and this can be built into many places. I've heard examples of this being used in the piping industry, this being used very effectively in the media industry where people create images, and then you can use blockchain to kind of verify and ensure that the right copyrights and the attribution go back to the original author. Cool. So we got a good sense of what retail is, we got a good sense of digital transformation. So now let's go a little bit inside. I'll talk a little bit about my experience of what's different on the cloud versus the traditional data center. And so we'll talk into that one. Right. So, so in order for you to understand, we'll just spend a few minutes looking at a typical e-commerce architecture or a typical retail architecture. This is a fairly generic architecture. So you basically have, on the left side we have, sorry, for you guys it's on the right side. Sorry, good. Left side, sorry, I got confused on that. So you have these apps. So these can be your consumer apps, these can be your retail store apps, and you have your websites. And you can have integrations now. For example, if you want to use Facebook Commerce, you can integrate there. And all of these talk to, so they basically brought two large systems which are there for any retail tech. Right? So there's the supply chain systems, which are the fulfillment systems, which are on the side. These are the systems, after you place an order, how does the fulfillment happen? And everything else that you see on the consumer side, the apps, your login pages, how you do a checkout, all of that is a part of the consumer-facing storefront. And then these are some of the simpler services that are there behind. And between them, you typically have you have a queuing mechanism, because the rate, while you can scale this a lot, because this is your app, millions of people can come in and order online, the amount of products you can fulfill will actually be determined by how much infrastructure you have, how many people you have working in the warehouses, etc. So you typically will have a queue mechanism so that you can actually rate limit this and fulfill the orders. One interesting thing that we see is, especially when we do when these peak sales happen, like any of the peak sales, you actually see that your traffic goes up to almost 10x of BAU. And so you'll have a lot of orders that come in a short amount of time. But of course, you can't fulfill 10x in the same amount of time. So that's where these queues become very, very useful. Right. Now, for this kind of a stack, I actually feel that cloud is a very natural fit. Right? How does that help? You can so if you take a traditional data center model, you will have your physical servers. It's not easy to increase, decrease servers. With cloud, you can actually very easily scale up and scale down servers. This also helps to bring down your carbon footprint as well, right? Because you can actually optimize on how many servers you want to run based on the expected load. Right? There is separation between disk and compute. So this allows you, for example, if your physical hardware fails, you can very quickly swap out the virtual server to another virtual server without worrying about moving the data from one to the other one. The third point is also, which I find very useful, is that you can actually take a snapshot of the whole state of the machine. So this is all the hardware, the data, and whatever the current state, and you can just save that snapshot, and you can use that snapshot to spawn more versions of the same server. Right? And of course, there's a lot of hosted services that are available on public clouds that allows you to actually get up to speed and build things much faster. And then you can and there'll be ready-made pipelines and guides on how to actually connect multiple host services and build a very complex system. Right? And then I think traditionally, if you were in the data center, your own on-prem systems, a core capability of organizations was to actually build support systems and build capability to drive and have your own data centers. That is not there with the cloud. So you actually get best of class support, you get best of class infrastructure, and the ROI is also very is superb, especially if you're at a small scale. Right? What are some of the disadvantages of cloud? Because cloud makes things much easier, I think, and of course everyone has huge pressure, huge business goals to achieve. So sometimes cloud gives you a way out, right? So instead of spending time to optimize, you can actually maybe just scale up your DB server, or you can get more compute that's coming in. So you need to be much disciplined, and this is from both angles, right? It's of course more cost that you're paying for the infrastructure, but now given we are in this summit, we should also look at the environment impact, right? Because you've not optimized it, you're using more larger servers, and you're actually consuming more power. Right? Cost can easily spiral. And I think when we are building new projects, when you're building new systems, typically when you're looking at cloud spends, you look at the infrastructure cost, but there is a data cost that comes along with it. So as you start processing more data, there's a lot of data transformation cost, and that adds up quite significantly. Right? And while at smaller scale, clouds are very good at ROI, but as you become much larger scale, then companies sometimes do move out and set up their own. They kind of build their own cloud because it becomes more economical at that particular scale. But it's you have to be really big for that, to make that switch to happen. If you're using hosted solutions, sometimes that abstraction layer kind of becomes difficult for you to debug what's happening. For example, in an earlier world, if you had your own MySQL server, you could actually go in and look at all the parameters. You could look in the CPU of this MySQL server. But if you have a hosted database service, then you're limited to whatever graphs and visibility that's available on the cloud. Right? And then you also become less familiar with the underlying low-lying systems because there's a lot of abstraction that you'll be working on. This is the last topic. I want to talk about sales and scalability. I always think of this as a 12th class board exam. Because you've announced that a huge sale is coming, there's a lot of marketing spend that's happened, and you're getting a huge spike of traffic. And that's the time when you want everything to be working fine, right? That's the moment of truth. And in fact, we saw at this sale as well, Amazon with all of its scale, they actually struggled with the peak that they had at the opening day. So this is what an online sale looks like, right? This is a traffic graph. So on the left we have what's a normal day, and then when all the marketing campaigns, users are also very excited, you'll actually see a huge spike that comes in. So it's almost like a 10x peak that can come in from your BAU values. And this is the peak that you have to actually build everything for. Right? And then this is modeled after the sales that start at midnight. So this is the midnight peak. And then next day you will actually you'll still have a very high first day. And then as you are going through probably like a 5-day sale, your other days will still be much, much higher than BAU. So you're still looking at 3x of BAU even on normal sale days. And then once the sale ends, then it comes back to your normal BAU. And this is where using cloud helps a lot because you can quickly scale up, you can quickly scale down. And why is it important to solve for these scales, right? So while it feels that you can just add more hardware and you'll be able to scale, but what happens is that you've actually built many features over the last period, and because your BAU is always much lesser, unless you've actually done proper load test, you're not ready for that scale. And what you may also find is that as you're scaling systems, I've had a couple of cases in my experience where this whole new tech was built on, let's say, relational database. But then when we started looking at 10x volume, then we realized that probably this relational database will not work, and then we have to move to a different kind of maybe a object-oriented store. So you have to kind of, as you're building new features, you have to ensure that you're building for that 10x capacity. And of course, many runs of load testing have to happen to ensure that you're ready to handle that peak. Right. And why is this challenging? Right. So in computer systems, if the rate of scale is growing linearly, then you'll actually see that a lower hardware is able to handle that peak value. But then when you are having a very rapid increase, that's where you actually end up requiring more compute power. And there's always this cascading effect. Like, so let's say you have 5 servers. Suddenly you get a peak. Out of those 5 servers, 2 servers go down. And then the remaining 3 servers have to now handle even more increasing traffic. And that kind of causes the whole thing to just cascade down. And on the other hand, if you increase load slowly and gradually, probably these 5 servers can actually handle the same load. But the rate of increase makes a big impact on how much infrastructure you need, right? And you have some deeper problems like, let's say you had some key in a cache, and you have 100 servers trying to fetch the same key. It's not there in cache. Then all those 100 requests will actually go to the DB, and it'll kind of bring down the entire system as well. So there's some interesting problems like thundering herd, cache stampede, congestive collapse. All of these are very critical for you to manage and handle in order for you to peak to those scale. Right. I have just a few examples of scalability from what we used to do earlier when we had data centers and how scalability happens on cloud. So this is for scaling application servers. In the cloud, a couple of hours or probably a few days before the sale, you just add servers, you just validate your auto-scaling rules, and you kind of sort it out. Whereas on-prem, you actually have to figure out how much infrastructure you need. You need to place orders with the vendor many weeks before the sale, and then bring the servers, install the setup, and then have that higher amount of infrastructure running for the sale. And then after the sale, you probably decommission and find ways to not use those servers anymore. Scaling database servers, probably like a week before you upgrade the DB server. It's very easy. On many systems, many platforms, you can just do right-click upgrade, and the DB server upgrades. Whereas on-prem, this is an activity that you have to do like a few months before. You have to get a new DB server. You have to move the data. You have to think about how you want to handle the transitions between the old DB server and the new DB server. How does the application manage and run across both of these platforms? And otherwise, you have to plan for a downtime on the application. Networking infrastructure, again, look at on-prem was a lot difficult, whereas on cloud, a lot of this is covered. You just have to probably give some, if you're having extreme loads, probably give a heads up to your cloud provider, but mostly because they're on public cloud, there's so much other traffic going on that these systems are able to handle a lot more network volume. Cloud also helps with load testing. It's very easy to create a parallel environment, whereas if you have an on-prem one, then creating a parallel environment is very, very cumbersome and very, very expensive. So that brings me to the end of my talk. I just wanted to summarize these 5 points. First of all, I think we should all congratulate ourselves that we're living in this golden era of consumer growth and growth of India, and increasing amount of consumerism, smartphone growth. Digitalization has a lot of benefits for retail. Omnichannel is the way forward because it kind of allows consumers to interact with your retail store or to your brand in whichever platform they're most comfortable with. We also saw how cloud was beneficial for retail tech. And then as you're building omni-channel, scalability becomes a very important part. We also talked a little bit about how scalability, how you can improve and build for scalability in your platforms. Thank you.